Amazing. Well, thank you all for joining us. And one of the things you notice right away, with the series is what an incredible ensemble it is on the screen. And it's really great that you were able to bring everybody both on and behind the scenes together. You can tell it's just a really big group ensemble effort and a huge undertaking. I mean, I think when watch a lot of independent pilots, and I think anything done in the science fiction is really hit or miss and really hard to do well. And I was just so blown away by the world and by the concept. And maybe that's a good place to start. It's just a little bit about where the idea for this came from.
Yeah, so I'm obsessed with science fiction to begin with. So there's that. And also just, I don't want to say strong women characters, but I love just having women doing things more often. So, and putting them in sort of these dangerous positions or unsure positions where we're not sure what they're going to do because they're not perfect characters. So those two things combined, and then my brain often just floats off into like the concept of time travel. So because it's not proven, and so my brain's always floating through like, how could it be though? So this sort of plays in this world where my brain has lived, that's a few hundred years in the future. I call it near future. And it's where most of the planet has off-planeted to the Alpha Centauri star system. And the people that are left either chose to because they didn't believe that anyone would make it, or because they couldn't afford to, or they wanted to be freer than that. So those are the people that really the whole first season would follow, is the people that are on Earth, primarily the doctor who has come back to Earth, and her supplement that she gets connected to, Kirka, who comes from a matriarchal nomadic tribe of mechanics. So yeah, it's very worldy, and I agree with you, Randy, in the world of like, when we started to do this, I was like, how is it possible that I can write so much money into every single minute? Because,
you pull it off very well. So
Leticia is aware of, because I'm always telling her ideas that cost way too much. But it's also just fun and exciting to explore that world. And I actually do VFX. So I did all of the VFX in this. It's like $200,000 worth of VFX. And I was like, well, what if I do it myself?
That makes a lot of sense. And it's very, very, very well done. And when you talk a little bit about the world, because the world you created is so large, it's so detailed, which I think for a pilot episode is so important, right? Is you really want to create a world that people want to come back to, and then some really great character plot that people hook into. And just starting with the world first, was there any inspirations that you drew from?
Well, I mean, I love Firefly. So all the way back is like foundational. Is like, I still curse in that language, and anyway. So between that and then I love, like, I also love musicals, honestly. So like sci-fi and musicals sort of live in the same world to me, which sounds weird, but they're both this sort of heightened reality where you can explore themes in a kind of like freer way, because you can explore these sort of I don't know, characters that in a normal straight drama would be maybe unbelievable.
Well, I have to tell you, not to nerd out too much, but I also like sci-fi musicals. We're going to get along just fine altogether. So you filmed if I understand this, you filmed in a small town in Louisiana. Is that correct? And I want to throw this maybe a little bit over to everyone as well, to the actors and to the associate producers. How was it to film there? What were the challenges? How many days did you film? Maybe give me a little background. Who wants to jump in?
T?
Hi. Yeah, it was fun. And I think the biggest challenge is that we produced everything from LA. All of our pre-production was in Los Angeles. And so Liz is our locations manager. So Sarah was Google mapping locations she liked, giving the information to Liz. Liz was contacting these people, figuring out the permitting. And then Maggie and Kayla did wardrobe and props as well. And also all three of them are in it. They have small roles in the pilot as well, in the 12-minute pilot. But so with everything happening from LA, and then arriving with suitcases, having Amazon packages shipped to our Airbnbs. Our first Airbnb was down like a mile-long dirt road and it had rained. So basically it's like, you just don't know what's going to happen. Like you can prep as much as you want from Los Angeles, but the second that plane lands, who knows what's going to happen? So I think that is probably one of the biggest obstacles, is doing everything from a different city. And then for it to all come together.
But the people there were great.
The people, yeah.
Very helpful.
Yeah.
Everyone there was super helpful. Liz was on it.
I just want to say, like, filming in a small town, the advantages are people are so kind to you. Like, people are so kind, so welcoming, so generous. I mean, just there's so much love and support for filming, you know, independent films. So it really, really strengthens, you know, your whole mood, and it was great. Like it's really great, and there's something really cozy and nice about a small town.
Yeah, but I would say the biggest challenge would probably be doing everything in one place and then just making it happen somewhere else. And we didn't have all of our locations locked, so our one of the drone shots that Sarah did above the truck, where you like have the reveal of the city, the domed city. We got that location there. We were talking, this woman was like, what are you guys doing here? And we were like, oh, we're filming a movie. And she's like, how can I help you? Just at a bar.
And we were like, we need like a field with some trees. And she was like, I own a field with trees. And we're like,
Okay,
and Murtaza's also from Louisiana. And then Lanita came over from Texas. The girls came with us from LA. So, and then Terry came over from Texas as well, Austin.
How did you set your cast? Because you all came from all over the place. So maybe I'll turn to the cast. And why don't you tell me a little bit about how each of you got involved in the project?
I'll throw my hat in the game with that. I auditioned for it, but the premise was really incredible, and I thought just as lot what Sarah was saying about the idea of strong women in the just this unusual kind of feel. And when I looked at it, I guess as crazy as it sounds, when I looked at the character, I started thinking she reminds me of a cross between like Oprah and Hannibal Lecter for some odd reason. And so I thought this is a neat opportunity to do this. And I was really also encouraged that majority of the team was female led, and just a chance to be around all of that was really encouraging. And I'll also echo what Elizabeth was saying about the small town in your previous question. For me as an actor, looking out of the window where a lot of my scenes were shot, it was inspiring to me to be in this Louisiana town that had a lot of that older New Orleans, not New Orleans, but you know, Louisiana kind of architecture. And then people are there on their cell phones. So I felt like I had so much to draw from of the feeling of that nomadic tribe, and then this more contemporary place. And so I thought it was just really incredible that the locale team had an amazing job of giving actor inspiration with the places that they chose. So
Amazing, I love that.
Okay, I guess I'll go ahead next. So I got the notice from my acting teacher, Debbie Goday, and she talked with my agent, and I read over the character of Jute, and he seemed so much like myself. He's very naive and adventurous, and he always just wants to be involved in things. And then I was like, oh, I get an on-screen sister. Wait, this will be really exciting. Okay, because I've never had that before. So, but it was a lot of fun. So,
Love that.
Well, Leticia's aunt, and they still made me audition. So that tells you how legit the film is. But that's how I got involved. But I had to audition twice, so yeah.
Oh, God. Everybody's got to go through the same thing.
There's no nepotism.
That's great. That's wonderful. And actually, since it was brought up, and I was really curious about this, I know there's obviously a huge focus on women in science and STEM more specifically. And I wanted to talk about your choice of this portrayal. First of all, you know, typically women in science and they're working, you know, in the large term of film and television, and why you made the choices in the way that you made them with Dr. Merkel and things like that, specifically for supplements.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I thought a lot about this, and I thought that because sometimes there's women in sci-fi, but I wanted there to be a scientist in sci-fi, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So just to like sort of double down on there being, instead of it being like futuristic things happening to people who aren't scientists, I thought it would be really interesting to sort of put the science back into sci-fi in a way. And in the longer scope of it, she's working on time travel science for the whole thing. So she's back on Earth partially for a supplement, but also partially for some rare elements that you can only find on Earth. So it's sort of this whole thing about, I know a lot of, when we talk about women in STEM, it's a lot of the talk is about inspiring like younger women to get into STEM and to be in sciences and things like that. But I also think it's important to inspire women of all ages, because we're all watching things like, you think about Meredith Grey, or you think about Dana Scully, or you think about Amy on Big Bang Theory. And like, these are all very inspiring characters where you can relate to someone who, like an intelligent woman who's living her life. And even if you're not in STEM, that could inspire women of all ages to go out and live their lives in a way that could be a little bit more badass, or a little bit more sciencey, or a little bit, and not be afraid to be seen as, I don't know, nerdy. I'm nerdy, so I think it's cool, but some people, I don't know, I think it's something that can be inspiring for women of all ages, not just as important it is to inspire young women to get into STEM and to get into like camera department and film and things like that. It's also just important for us to relate to people on screen that are not doing the exact thing we're doing necessarily. So I'm pretty passionate about that. Leticia is too. I mean, we all are. Everyone who's here is very passionate about that. But I thought it was very important to like go head on into the black hole of like just shoving science into sci-fi. So especially, and trying to get as many women as possible. I try to, like, when I'm writing, I try to write, I naturally write like almost all women. And so it's not until I realize that I've written too many women that I'm like, oh, I should make, this one should be a guy. Which I think is fun. It's kind of, you know, it's the antithesis of what currently happens.
I commend you on the choice, because again, I think it's really unique. It's not something you see in most television shows, and it really, really resonated with me personally. Does anyone want to add anything to that? All right, well then we're down to our final question. I cannot believe that this is already up. Like, I could go for another 20 minutes. This is clearly not enough time, but maybe just a little sneak of what we can expect. I mean, you leave us with such an incredible cliffhanger, so I thought maybe just a little, can you give us a sneak on what will happen next? Any little storyline?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have the whole, I'm currently working on the novel version of it. So like the whole series, multiple seasons planned out. So basically, yeah, the whole first season would follow essentially Dr. Mercole and Kirka as they're connected, because they both need opposite things. So they're constantly working against each other, but they're physically connected. So that's kind of a really beautiful story situation. And Kirka is dealing with sort of the nomadic tribe disowning her in a way for letting her brother get sent off to another planet. And the scientist is dealing with, honestly, like finding her humanity again, because she's now a few hundred years old. She thinks that she's fighting for the little guy, and in reality, she has invented quite a few things for the 1%, and that's not who she thinks she is. So that's sort of like the character growth, and they're working on, well, the scientist and ultimately Kirka helps her discover exotic matter paint for a spaceship so that you would not get crushed into infinity in the event horizon of a black hole. That's the sort of the first season in like a super nerdy way.
I hope we get a chance to watch that. I know this went by really quickly, but I want to thank you guys all for taking the time to join me today and for sharing supplements. I'm really, really excited for everyone to watch it, and excited to continuing to get to know you and hang out with you for SeriesFest. So thank you guys all, and I'm going to end this and have a good day.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.